This weekend, we're seeing one of my favorite films, and I think a favorite film of so many cinephiles, people that love film. It is a film by Billy Wilder, and it is called Sunset Boulevard. Now, Sunset Boulevard was a really a street, a neighborhood that was associated with the entire film industry. In fact, the first movie theater was, I mean, the movie not theater, but the movie studio was built there in 1911. And since then, as Hollywood became grander, as the movie stars began to build huge houses to be able to show off their new wealth, to live in splendor, so many houses were built on Sunset Boulevard. It was especially true with all of the silent film stars who retired. They often lived there in mansions. So out of this situation comes the film Sunset Boulevard. Billy Wilder and Charles Bracken, the writers, had sort of toyed with it for years. How can this develop? How can we get this to work? Now, it is a view of Hollywood that is not terribly flattering. In fact, it's one of the least flattering views of Hollywood. We have a lot of films about actresses and Hollywood, and it's ruined. We have a new one this year called Mac, but in this case, it is about an aging film star that has retired, and she hires a young man that she falls in love with to write a script for her that she's going to make a comeback. Now, to actually cast this film, it is very amusing, all the things they went through to try to find the absolutely best cast. They first, entertainingly, asked Mae West, and they were going to have the protagonist be Marlon Brando. Both of them turned them down. No, don't want to do this. Other actors and actresses they asked were offended. The actresses were basically, really outraged that they would be asked to play a has been in the movie industry. It is so funny that egos and their oversized ideas about themselves, come to play with their confronting a script about somebody that might have been their friend. Even when the film was finished and shown, many of those silent film stars went, wait a second, this just has no base in reality at all. We may be loony, but we're not that loony. So I think there is a playfulness about the film. It's dead serious, but there is often such marvelously outrageous scenes that give you great entertainment value. And it's also to be interesting about Gloria Swanson. Now, Gloria Swanson had retired. She hadn't actually retired from films. She basically was not asked to be in films after the silent film started, but she kept up with her career. She left Hollywood. She went to New York. She was on the radio. She basically did radio dramas. She started in the early television. She was in a number of television shows. So she was still working, but they decided because she was such a big star in the silent era, they, offered the part to her, and she was absolutely delighted. She really threw herself into the part with everything she had. Now, the people in the other people in the film are, it's really interesting because, they also are remnants of the silent period. But the butler, who is played by Eric von Stroheim, he was a famous director in his own right. However, he also was an extraordinary actor, having, parts in some of the really best films of the 30s, so that he was not alien to the whole world of film. And there is a scene in the film in which some of her friends come to play cards, and every one of the people that are playing cards were former film stars. But the person that is the most surprising is, of course, Buster Keaton. comedy king of the silent era, who has now become, even more famous than he ever was in the 20s. He and Chaplin are considered the two great silent comics, and he is, constantly being shown. His films are being shown everywhere in colleges, universities, film courses, etc. So it's so fun to see these people in another context, that they were willing to come and be in this bizarre film. It's referred to a lot as a horror film. It's a Hollywood horror film. But of course, it's real life horror. It's not like a spooky horror, except it's fairly spooky. It's fairly spooky. The the hero arrives at the house mistaken for an undertaker, and you'll be delighted to see what he came, to take away. It's all absolutely marvelous. I don't want to go too much into the aspects of the story, but I do want to mention that it is a part of film noir. And the film noir, which you may not know what even that is, it comes out of Expressionism in Germany. And it's basically always using very harsh, dark light to make everything a bit more sinister. And in this film, the plot and the subject matter certainly fit into a sort of post-film noir period that make it extra special, in its own right. So I'm delighted to show it to you tonight, and I certainly will be delighted to hear what you have to say about it.